Hi, and welcome to part 3 of my current vlog, Growing Up. Each episode I kind of recall a part of our childhood, my best friend Ted's childhood, and kind of try and let you know what it was like growing up back in the 50s. Anyway, last time I had mentioned that this video would be about playing outside and things like that, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I almost left this early childhood a little bit too soon. I don't want to leave behind the magic of Christmas and Santa Claus and those kind of things, because to us, Christmas was the biggest time of the year. One of the biggest traditions we had was going downtown to the Loop in Chicago, heading down there on the commuter train, which was called the IC, and seeing all the store windows that were all lit up and animated, and then going to the #1 department store in our mind, and the best toy department in history was going to Marshall Field's, a huge department store that was decorated like nothing else. And all we could do is couldn't wait to get to the floor that had the toys on it, because like I said, to us the toy department in Marshall Fields was perfect and we loved it. So we would head down there with our parents. Sometimes I would go with Ted's parents, sometimes he would go with my parents, and we would head to Marshall Fields, make it up to the toy department, and of course I'm sure my parents wanted to do some other shopping, but we probably whined and complained about that. And of course Santa Claus was there. Now, we knew that he was a pretty good Santa Claus, and we considered him one of Santa's helpers, because he wasn't the real Santa Claus. The real Santa Claus was back in Harvey. Yep, the real Santa Claus was in downtown Harvey in a department store called the Eagle Store. And upstairs in the Eagle Store was the real Santa Claus. We always went to him, we told him everything we wanted, because we knew he was the real guy. And as a matter of fact, when this may even been before I met Ted, one Christmas, and I was pretty little, I probably remember this through being told by my parents, but that Santa Claus one day knocked on my door when I was a little kid. I answered it, and there he was. I could not believe it. He had come by the house to see what I wanted for Christmas. Amazing. Now there was a little shop in town called Doc's Tin Shop. And it just so happens that Doc grew a long white beard, grew his hair down to his shoulders. His wife made him a costume that was beautiful, real fur, real white fur on the cuffs and around the waist. A real leather belt, not some fake thing. He wore real boots made out of leather, and when he was Santa Claus, he looked the part, and to us kids, he was it. That had to be the real Santa Claus. There was no doubt in our mind. And I can remember, probably we got a little older, always kind of walking up into downtown Harvey to do our Christmas shopping. And I don't remember a winter that did not have snow on the ground almost the whole winter, but for sure around Christmas. And it would be the type of snow that would have been there for a long time, and people walking over it had, in areas that weren't shoveled, would have it all squished down. It would be kind of dirty looking, and it would squeak when you walked over it. I can still remember the sound of that snow walking up to Harvey and squeaking under my shoes. But we did all of our shopping up there. The Eagle Store was a good place to go. There was a place called Mark's Toggery we went to. Now, the place we liked to go the best was the dime store. That's what we called it. We called it the dime store. I guess it was really called Woolworths 5 and 10 cent store. But that was our favorite place to shop, and our favorite place to go anytime we went up into town. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, Ted's parents were one of the first people on the block to get a TV. They got a 7-inch TV. It wasn't too long after that that my parents got a TV, and ours was 10-inch. So now we both had a TV. And what was really popular with the kids at that time were puppet shows. Of course, Howdy Doody was big. Kukla, Fran and Ollie was big. We watched a show called Lucky Pup that featured two characters we just loved. Was Foodini, who was a magician, and Pinhead, who was his assistant. And we just lived for that show. So that sparked an interest in us. We thought we should have puppets. You know, that would be a good thing for us to have. They were on TV all the time. We liked puppets, so Ted and I decided to start buying puppets. But the one thing we never did, we never put our hand inside the puppet and worked it as a puppet. We played with them like they were little green soldiers, maybe. We used them because we could flop them around and make them do things without actually putting our hand inside, just by holding the head and walking it around. We could play army with them. We could play all kinds of things with them. One of the favorite things to do was get a shoebox, put the puppet in the shoebox, slide it across the kitchen floor. It was a race car. It would crash into the other guy's race car, the puppet would fly out, and that's how we played. And, you know, on rainy days or days when we were just miserable to go outside, that's what we did. We played with those puppets. Now, some of our friends didn't quite understand that. They couldn't quite grasp that type of play. It was mostly Ted and I did that. And we did that for a long time, along with all the other things too. But those puppets became very important to us. And we got just a little bit older and the weather got nice. It was probably summertime. There were a couple kids on the block that were just a little bit older than us. So they convinced our parents, I suppose, that they could take us to the show. And the show, every Saturday, would show cartoons, those old serials that were in chapter form. There'd be Commando Cody, the Dead End Kids with Hunt's Hall and Leo Gorsey. Some of the old westerns were in chapter form, and you know, we had to go back every Saturday to see what was going to happen next. We did that quite a bit, and what we did was we thought that, all the kids thought that if you walked through the alleys all the way to uptown Harvey, it was a shortcut. Now those alleys went exactly the same as the sidewalk out on 154th Street, but to us it was a shortcut. So we went through the alleys all the way up to the show. And of course, along the way, one of our favorite pastimes was what we called garbage picking. And you would go along through the alley and check everybody's garbage, see if there's anything good in there. Now we weren't real good at it, but we had a friend named Terry who was an expert. He could find more stuff than you can imagine in those garbage cans. And we always thought he was the best garbage picker we knew. We were amateurs compared to him. Now right near us, in fact, right in back of Ted's house, his alley went out to 154th Street. And right across 154th Street was a little store called Leonard's Midwest. And that became the meeting place for kids to meet, organize baseball games, things like that. We, of course, collected old soda pop bottles, and you could get 2 cents a bottle for them. So we'd collect bottles and go up there and buy our penny candy. And we would hang around there. They had milk cartons that were made out of wood that sat outside, and we would grab those and stand them up against the front of the store and sit on them. And spend hours up there, you know, talking, horsing around. Of course, later, Leonard, the owner, said, "Boys, you can't sit in front of the store. The customers don't like it." So he banished us to around the corner of the store in the alley, which we didn't care. We thought that was great, so that's where we were, in the alley next to the store. I think the days of the mom and pop grocery store are long gone, but it was a big deal to us, and most of the people in the area did their shopping there until they built a super grocery store, a national tea grocery store, right across the street from Leonard. In fact, that's where my mother worked for many years as a checker and then head cashier. But Leonard stayed in business a long time. He was there as long as I can remember, probably until I moved away from that neighborhood. I think Leonard's store was still there. Anyway, you don't see those kind of stores anymore, unfortunately. So I hope you'll stick with me for the next episode, and we'll really get into some of the things we did as kids when we played outside every day, and kind of what we did and what happened and what kind of trouble we got into, which was quite a bit. So we'll get into that in the next video or so. Thanks for watching.